deliver successful projects. My name is Clement Kwegyir. I'm a chartered engineer, a fellow of the Institution of Civil Engineers, member of the Association of Project Managers, and a very passionate project leader. My background is basically delivering large infrastructure projects across board, basically technology, highway, conventional rail, high-speed rail, M&E, marine, and the nuclear environment as well. So I basically looked after projects ranging from £800,000 to £600 million, and I've supported projects up to about £24 billion. Through this, I've received a number of awards for my projects, received a number of commendations from government organizations, and also a former UK Prime Minister. I've also published a book on delivering successful projects. So what I'm trying to say is everything I talk about is basically based on practical experience, what I feel works for me, which I'm trying to share, not any theory things. This presentation basically is, first of all, to cause you to question the common industry understanding of project success. What does it mean by project success? The second thing, discuss success criteria. What are the criteria that we're going to use to measure what we call project success? Okay. Number three, discuss some of the reasons why projects seemingly fail. And I say seemingly fail, and you find out why I'm saying that. Because sometimes people say a project has failed, but actually has not failed yet. Okay. And then discuss the most important thing to me is success factors for projects. So what are the success factors for projects? Okay. Through this, I'll sort of define some of the terminology, which I know most people will say is basic, but it's a reason for me to do that. And I'll try and explain why. Yeah. Okay. So what is a project? The APM, Association of Project Managers, which is a UK-based organization, says a unique transient endeavor undertaken to achieve planned objectives, which could be defined in terms of output, outcomes, or benefits. PMI, which I know Ghana also follows, says a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Now, Prince 2 goes a bit more further and talks about delivering business products according to the good business case. I like these definitions, okay? But to me, I like defining things to understand it properly so that I can actually apply it practically. So the way I define a project myself is we have a temporary organization, because every project is temporary organization, yeah? Required to deliver certain products. And the most important part is the product used in a business as usual environment to create some benefits. That is why we do a project, okay? We do a project because we want to create some benefits. So I would say, you know, it could be financial benefits. We want to have some additional income. We want to enhance our assets. It could also be strategic benefits. A company wants to have a competitive advantage. They set up projects. It could also be risk avoidance. So if you look at the current scenario, let me use UK because that's where my experience is predominantly based. The UK government wants to come out of the European Union. So by them wanting to come out of the European Union, there are companies that may find it risky and they may set up projects to avoid that risk. Okay. So we do projects because of risk avoidance. These are all very critical. Yeah. I'll come back to these things as we go through this. I'll then say, what is project management? Of course, we put project management in place to manage the projects, right? So APM defines as process, methods, knowledge, all that to achieve the project objectives. PMI's definition is similar to the APM UK's definition. PMI is an American based. I think Prince 2 goes a bit more further by talking about motivation of those involved, which is to me is critical. So now it is bringing some concept of leadership into it, which is what I think, I believe project management is really should be focused on. He also talks about the performance targets that you're looking at, which is the 6 things that every project manager should be aware, which is time, cost, quality, scope, benefits, and risk. I like it again because it highlights that projects are done because of benefits. Okay? So based on this thing that we just talked about, yeah, we have the Sydney Opera House, which was built in, which is in Australia. Everybody knows about the Sydney Opera House. And they started building this in 1959. It was supposed to cost about $7 million and take 4 years. It took 10 years and it came in about £93 million of a budget or so. So it was about 1,400% cost overrun. The same thing with the Channel Tunnel. So the Channel Tunnel is a tunnel for high-speed rail that connects United Kingdom and France, basically. It also came over budget. At the time, Margaret Thatcher said it was a huge success. His opponent said it was a failure. Same thing with London Jubilee Line. It came in 40% cost overrun. The government says use £6 billion of taxpayers' money, but actually they got £10 billion of economic benefits. Why am I highlighting these things? I'm highlighting these things because all these projects here, if you look at the conventional people's understanding of what a project success is, you will see every one of these projects failed. But we know the Sydney Opera House is the most iconic building, maybe one of the most iconic buildings in Australia, and everybody goes there. So the amount of tourism that they've gained on that is huge. Okay? I'm not saying project managers should go out there and overrun their costs and time. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you need to understand that there is a difference between project success and project management success. Okay? So project success is what we are delivering the project for. What we talked about first. Why is the relevance for the project? We're delivering it because we need some benefits. It's not because we want to put a bridge over the road. We want to put a bridge over the road because it will create some benefits. That's why we're doing the project. It's very important project managers get that in their mind. Project management success, rather, is what people talk about a lot, which is to achieve an agreed definition of success. Now, it's intentional, me saying agreed definition of success, because what most people normally would say is, oh, if you meet time, cost, quality, and nowadays you've added scope, then the project will be successful. That is project management success. That's not project success. Okay? You should also understand that a supplier delivering the project has his own concept of what success means to him. He wants to make profit. He wants to get repeat business. Therefore, project success to a contractor or a supplier is about making a profit on that particular project and getting repeat business on future projects with a client. You understand? So let's say if your project will overrun by 7 years because the client changed loads of stuff in so many things, and the contractor or supplier made a lot of, what do you call it, profits on that, he will still see that as success. Okay? And then you have the public perspective. You know, you can do a bridge, and the bridge may come out to be the best design and all that according to the designer's perspective. The public may look at that project and say, what a shoddy design, or what a nasty design, what a waste of money. They may not even understand that that was because of, let's say, putting disability ramps or anything like that in. The public perception would be probably the project has been a failure. An example is the Three Gorge Dam in, China. When they built that, it caused a lot of flood that destroyed a lot of villages. So they will not, the public may not see it as a successful project. Okay? So you have a project manager. I prefer the term project leader. And you have to deliver a project. You have different aspects of definition. So let's say the public have their own definition of success. The supplier have their own definition of success. The delivery team have their own definition of success. And then you have the client who wants to achieve certain benefits. So what do? You see, some project managers, when I ask them whose definition of success matters, they say, oh, the client pays the money. It's the client. No, you're wrong. And pardon me if I say that. What you want is, if the supplier thinks that you're not looking after their interest, okay, the supplier is going to fight you, look for all sort of flaws on your contract to try and make money out of the project, okay? So you are not going to be successful. If the delivery team, individuals in the delivery team feel that you don't care about their development, because remember, a project is only temporary. So those people in your delivery team are going to move from your project and go to another project. If they feel that you don't care about them and all you care about is hitting milestones, you're not going to have a successful project. So what you have is a supplier pulling one direction, the public pulling another direction, the delivery team pulling another direction, and therefore you're going to have a very frustrating project. A good project manager, a project leader, is one that gets all the stakeholders in the room and say, what do we mean by success to us? And how do we achieve that? Okay? So what I've tried to get across is a project management could be successful. So let's say for example in Ghana, we decide to build a high-speed rail or a railway from Takoradi all the way to Bolgatanga or the northern region. Okay, we build this fantastic railway, and it's for what you call it people to use it. Yeah, okay. Now we do this, and then nobody uses the railway. People prefer to actually still use the road. Okay, even if that railway was built on time, cost, quality, and whatever, it has still failed because it has not achieved its intended benefits. So project management can be successful, and still the project will be a failure. Okay, because sometimes there needs to be a bigger program to put certain legislations in place and certain things in place so that it will force people to move from cars to get to use the railway. Okay, so it doesn't mean that because your project management was successful, the project will be successful. However, we will say that if project management is successful, it improves our chances for making the project a success. Okay, for me, I look at three things. I did say I want to sit down with the supplier, with the most important stakeholders and everybody else, and define what success is. So once we define what success is, what we need to do then is, what is the criteria? What are the criteria that we are going to measure the success by? This will include behavior and several other aspects of it. And it is for the team to come together and say, you know what, supplier, client, critical stakeholders, all in a room, come up and say, this is what we define success for the entire project, taking into consideration the client's requirements and what he wants to get. The next thing you want to consider is, why do similar projects fail? You understand? Why do similar projects similarly fail? You need to understand that, so you address those issues. The third point is, what practices will make it successful? That is what I call success factors. All my projects, I'm always completely focused on success factors, not tools, not processes, nothing else. Just these three things, yeah? So in a way, you have this, what I call my hourglass, yeah? It's called an hourglass, where you can actually see, okay, what is the problem that I'm trying to resolve? Or what is the opportunity I'm trying to exploit? And then the objective, what a success looks like. And this is where I'm talking about collective success, not just the client's definition of success, yeah? So what is a collective success? Then we need to think about the critical success factors. What are the things we must get right to make this project successful? Then the scope. What are the deliverables? What are we delivering? When we know the critical success factors and we know what success looks like, we know what sort of products that we need to deliver. If you deliver those products will be used in a business as usual environment, remember, to create benefits. It's very important you're aware of that, because a lot of project managers, yeah, and projects will say, I need to deliver this fantastic 2-kilometer bridge or this high-speed rail and stuff like that. And when you ask them, what is the client's main purpose of building this project? They don't know. Okay, you need to know that. What are the benefits that we are trying to create here? And I'll give you an example. I was on a project which was about just around $900 million, 900 million pounds, sorry. And we realized that if we increase the scope of the project, it meant that the client's benefit will be better met, because the client was going to build another project which was 15 billion pounds, and it would better connect. So we told the client about it, and the client, of course, was the UK government. So they said, okay, what do you call it? The transport ministry, really. So they gave us additional money to exploit that opportunity so that their benefits will be expanded. So that's what you've got to think about. What are the benefits? Don't just think about the scope. Yeah? Okay. And also there's the risk that you need to think about as you create the scope, as you create the products that you'll be using in business as usual. There'll be risk. And when I say risk here, you're all project leaders, so you understand risk is threats and opportunities. What are the things that will come up that we need to control? Okay, so for me, project success is determined by the benefits or aim of the project. This is what we plan to do, okay? Project management success, which people traditionally call TCQ, or time, cost, quality, now scope. I call it accepted by client, a reasonable public image, develops great stakeholder relationship during delivery, team develop new skills, that's very critical, okay? Contractor makes a reasonable profit. I always write that in there. It's important. This is my definition of what success criteria is, what you should be looking at. But this is just something I've put together for a unique project, okay? For your unique project, you need to determine what success means. And seriously, I'll be including behavior and all that stuff to make sure that people actually understand it. The second thing that you need to think about is, okay, we now understand what success means. We now understand the criteria which we are going to use to measure success. So we know where the team is heading towards. Yeah. What are some of the things that will cost us the cost to go overrun? Okay. Now, this is a huge minefield. There's so many things that can cause a project to go overrun. Yeah. Some of the things I'm going to talk about here is things just to highlight these things to you. So there's something called Hesman's principle of hiding hand and Sawyer's superior space of folly. Now, this thing happens everywhere. This is something that a lot of what these guys said is, if people knew the true cost of projects, they will never commit to them. So what you've got to do is lie to them about the project cost, so that when they commit to it, they will do it anyway. These things, this particular principle has been debunked because it causes the wrong projects to be built. It's actually caused people to lose their careers. The guy who actually, the architect who designed the Sydney Opera House, he later on committed suicide. You understand? If a project has to be built, then it will be successful anyway. You need to say what the price will be. If you don't do it in the beginning, it's likely way down the line, when the true cost of the project is known, you, the project leader, will be kicked out. There's been a lot of projects in the United Kingdom now where the project leaders, the chairmen, the CEOs have been removed. Okay, let's move on. The next one is basing project estimates on outline requirements in business case. You all know that when you start a project in the beginning, you don't actually have the detailed design. You don't know the environmental requirements that you need. There's so many things that is unknown. Okay, you put together the cost estimates, and probably it will be a comparative cost estimate, but you don't allow for adequate contingency that could cause that. Inexperienced personnel undertaking estimates. So I've had a project where we had a big, deep trough that was supposed to be built, a 2-kilometer trough. It was way, way below the water table. The estimators, the quantity surveyors estimated it. They came up with a price, but they were only looking at concrete and steel. They forgot that for it being that way down into the water table, it needed special temporary works. Yeah. So you haven't built it before. So your estimate is likely to be wrong. Okay. Let's move on. The other points you can see there. The next one, which is my favorite. So we've talked about project success criteria. We've moved on. We've talked about what are some of the things that will make a project fail. Thirdly, which is my most important aspect of it, success factors. And as if every project leader or project manager should actually be conversant with these things to a very high degree, basically. First of all, we have the Pinterest 11 10 critical success factors. That's the first success factors I saw when I started leading projects, really. So then we have the Jan 13 success factors for information systems. There's a few of them. So Pinterest 11, I would call it really basic. And then we have the Netlist research project, which looked at 15 extremely large projects across the whole world. And they said, what actually made these projects successful? Okay. So I call them one from one scale to the other at the high end of the scale. So if you look at a Pinterest 11 success factors, the overarching theme is communication. Okay. You got to get your communication stuff right. So your communication plan and everything else needs to be spot on. That needs to be great. Then you have underpinning that, you need to monetize. So let's say if you put together a schedule or costs profile for the project, you need to monitor it so that when you monitor it, you can actually troubleshoot if there's any issues with it. Okay. The other thing as well is any project should have troubleshooting skills. So if you, the project manager, don't have troubleshooting skills, then you should have a team or somebody around who have troubleshooting skills. Because once your plan hits the main construction works, there are bound to be issues that will come up. Okay? And then you have the strategic issues that you need to look at, like project mission. Where are we going? What are our goals? The schedule, top management support, and the tactical stuff that you need to look at, team development, client acceptance, client consultation, which means the client discusses these issues with the final, users. And the tasks and processes which everybody is concerned with. Yeah. Then we move to the high end of the project. These are massive, large infrastructure projects. When you look at these ones here, the success factors are a clear vision and strong political will. I'll give you an example. There's been two nuclear projects in the United Kingdom that has been called. Okay, these projects started very well and they were called. And I say that they were called because there was not a strong vision, a clear vision, a strong political will, basically. Okay. The other thing as well is, for such a large project, you need a proper legal consent procedure in place. Let's take, for example, in the UK, I'll give one example in the UK and I'll try and make an example in Ghana as well. So in the UK, we have High Speed 2, which we're building. I was involved in High Speed 2. And there's a lot of environmental minimum requirements which we need to meet. Also, we are buying lands, farms, people's houses, and all of that. Okay, so all these things are legal issues. So you need to have a proper legal process in place. Now, if you don't identify on the onset that having a proper legal process in place to be able to buy all these lands and houses and all that, then your project will fail. You understand? So you need to understand that this is a critical success factor for this project. Okay, let's say Ghana, we're building a railway. I don't know where the railway lines are and everything else, but if you're building a railway from, let's say, Takoradi to the northern region, and you're going to buy other people's lands or farms and everything else, you know, you need the chiefs to buy their lands and everything else. You cannot just say that is one of the things that we would do. You need to straight away identify that that is something that could make or break the project. So that is a critical success factor. So what do? You need to put a process in place that will deal with that. Also, you may need to speak to all these farmers, you need to speak to the community, you need to speak to the chiefs. Therefore, you need a proper stakeholder management plan in place. Now, if it was a very small project, like a small bridge, of course, you may need these things, but these things will not be critical success factors. But for such a large project, they become critical, which is the reason why it needs to be specific for every project. What are my success factors for every project, okay? The next thing is, so what I've realized is, when you look at a project, if the project is not a large project, it's not a complex project, mostly your success factors are based on the things that Peter Slevin identified. Project management, procedures, governance, all that will deal with it. But the larger your project gets, the bigger your project gets, the more complex your project gets. Success factors now depend on soft skills, leadership, stakeholder management, that sort of thing. And I'll give you a perfect example. When I looked after an £800,000 project, okay, I was strengthening a bridge. The bridge strengthening works, I designed it myself. I was a project manager on site. I was a supervisor. I was a construction manager. I was everything on site. I was just a one-man band delivering that project. When I went to the high end, looking after a £600 million project, now you have so many people, designers and companies actually doing design for you. Some in UK, some in France. You have several commercial managers. You have several other discipline people. Okay, so they are now looking at the special aspects of the project for you. So what you need now is how to bring the best out of people and leadership. So way from a small project where you could manage a small project with a transactional way or you doing everything, when it gets to a large project, you're talking about how can I bring the best out of people? It becomes leadership. Okay? So you've got to think about where my success factors lie. Okay, so what I say every time is, people build projects, not processing projects. So if a project will fail, it will fail because of the behavior and culture of the people in the organization. Basically it. Even if you have the best procedures and you have the wrong people, they are not going to use the procedures. Okay, so people. Okay. I put together, so after looking after all these projects, all these different projects in different areas, rail, conventional rail, high speed, nuclear, technology, I realized that whenever I was called to look after a project, I was in trouble. It was mostly the same things. Okay, so I put together these success factors. The first one being effective top-level management support. Any project manager in a very highly sensitive, politically charged project will tell you that when you're running the project, you have so many senior managers chasing you for different information that actually may not be what you've agreed with your project sponsor. So you need a very solid top-level management support, somebody who can stand there help you get the resources that you need, help you coach your team, keep top level management or the political people away from you, the government away from you, so you can focus on your job. That's critical. The second one is you need to have the right team for the project. The right team for the project. And when I say the right team for the project, it means you have to look at several number of things. It could be the willingness of the people to learn regardless of the experience. Some people think that they know too much, but you should understand that every project is different, especially very complex projects. What are your personality types? Do they fit in this particular team, this particular project? A lot of people know about Miles breaks. I don't use Miles breaks when I'm running the project. It's good. Miles break is good, but I look at the 4 Ps because the 4 Ps is something that I can easily use. Okay, I cannot go into a bit of detail here. Of course, you have to look at the emotional intelligence of your team members and several other things like diversity. Okay, make the procurement process count. Don't just take a procurement process because that project will use a BOT and a Word. So let's just take that and put it here. No. That particular project, what is going to work for this particular project? You've got to look at it that way, yeah? The next one is robust project schedule. I love schedules because I think the schedule determines your cost and everything else. So a robust project schedule. 3 questions I'll say here because it's a big topic, but 3 questions. First of all, what you need to think about is, what are my golden resources? Okay, when I say golden resource, meaning things that are rare to come by, the resources that are rare to come by, so I can actually plan my destiny around them. Second, which areas are the complex areas of my project? Okay, I'll give you an example. So we're building these tunnels under the sea. Yeah, they've designed these tunnels under the sea, and we're supposed to put a shaft from the seabed. The tunnels are 3.5 kilometers into the sea, and we have to put this 25-meter deep shaft into it. Now, it's been designed in such a way that they connect directly. But having looked at it, I realized, you know what? If the tunneling works delays, or anything else delayed, those ships that we are bringing across to sink the shaft and put what we call the offshore heads on the bottom of the seabed are going to cost us so much money. I mean, just a few days, weeks delay, we're talking about millions of pounds. So I said, you know what, that is not the best way to design it. So I said, designers, go back, look at it. We need to offset the offshore work. So what we're going to do is we are going to what we call decouple the offshore work. So the offshore work stands separately from the tunneling work. So we can do them both separately, non-depending on each other. Another example was I was building a railway. We had we had to build a wall in between 2 live rails, 2 live lines. Okay. So that means that we had only very short windows to actually do the construction works. So you need to understand this. What are my complex areas? How can I make sure that my complex areas have been planned properly so they don't impact on the job? Then you have to look at what are the bottlenecks. So those are the 3 things. My complex areas of my build, my golden resources, what are my bottlenecks, yeah? Of course, you need to think about the 5th thing, monitoring and control. You have to, whatever you do, you need to monitor, your plan. And for me, a lot of people use just so many things that people recommend. What works for me is the only thing that I'll talk about. For infrastructure projects, I always use milestone monitoring, quantity tracking, network analysis and measurement of float usage, and end value analysis. These are the 4 I use, and I always use them together. And the reason why I use them together is because each one's shortfall complements the other. Each one's weaknesses complements the other. So it makes it a bit more robust in terms of monitoring. The next thing, success factor, is proactive risk management. Now, I know that when I say risk management, a lot of people will say, oh, we do risk management. That's true. Everybody does risk management. But when I've been on projects, what I've seen people do is they just do the risk, their risk, we've done this risk update this month. Are your risk up to date? Yes. Our risk are up to date. We did it this month. And that's what people think about. But what you have to realize is a project is something that's unpredictable. Also, a project is introducing change. Okay? Anything that introduces change is risky. So ideally, one can say that a project leader, you are actually, sorry when I say project leader, because I prefer the word project leader than project manager. Okay? A project leader, you are actually a risk manager. That is what you are. You are managing risk continuously. So these are the 3 questions. These are the things that I always say. whenever you make a decision on a project, this is what a decision does. And you should ask yourself that every time, whether in a project meeting or whether with people. The first thing is, this decision that I made, what risk did it mitigate? What risk did it introduce? And what risk did it eliminate? Okay, because every decision that you make on a project introduce some form of a risk, or eliminate some risk, or mitigate some other risk. It may exacerbate another risk. So if you ask yourself these questions every time you're making a decision, that means that the risk management is driving your decision making. You understand? You're not just making decisions, which is creating risk. Also, another thing that you need to think about is the same, based on the same thing. Whatever risk decision that you make, you should understand that that will affect the later stages of your project. Okay, and that's simple for everybody to understand. But I've been on projects where at the delivery stage, we say, okay, so why did they choose this particular thing? And I say, where is the risk? Risk, what do you call it? The risk assessment that they did in the beginning of the project. Where can I find that? And nobody can give me that. Okay, so ideally it should be a database where you can actually track every risk that you do. So always when you choose something, let's say you choose a particular procurement method. The procurement method that you chose has actually introduced a risk to the next stage. If you chose design and build, it's actually introduced a risk. If you said, I'm going to do build only, it has introduced a risk. You should understand all of that, okay? The next thing I'll talk about, the next one is reactive troubleshooting. I'm not going to go too much into that. Number 8, supplier collaboration. Now, collaboration is a topic that everybody talks about in, at least in UK here, everybody's talking about. But I think that collaboration is something that it should be applied on every project. I mean, if you think about it, the definition of collaboration, once you and the supplier are trying to achieve the same goal, you're actually collaborating, okay? But some people get in there and they say, oh, we need to collaborate, without understanding the level of collaboration which you need. Because once you don't understand the level of collaboration that you need, what happens is either the supplier does more and becomes aggrieved because the client is not supporting, or the client does more and thinks the supplier is taking a mickey. Yeah? So for me, you need to ask yourself certain questions. There are certain questions that you need to ask yourself before you agree on the type of collaboration that you use. One could be, is the project completely defined and the scope not likely to change? If the project is completely defined, scope not likely to change, and the supplier has all the skills, then you could actually run the project just based on transactional relationship. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Sign the contract, leave the contractor to do his work, stop interfering, yeah, and just monitor milestones and make payments. However, if you have a project that is not likely, the scope is not properly defined, you know that things are going to change. Also, there are some big stakeholders involved, which the client will have more influence. Then, of course, maybe we need to go with a more collaborative approach. You understand? So, I mean, in UK, you can have other aspects of different aspects of collaboration, where sometimes you have an alliance or partnership and all of that. But most projects really fall in the middle, where you create some form of a charter that discusses how you're going to lead the project. So we have what we call the BS 11,000 relationship management, chart, and you can create that for collaboration, which shows how each member will support the project. Then the next one, item 9, which I'll talk about, the lean philosophy. Now, when I go on projects and I ask them, are you using lean? Everybody tells me, yes, we are using lean. We know a lot about lean. And every time when they say we know a lot about lean, what they really mean is they are using lean tools. Because they will say, oh, we use 5S, we use bottleneck analysis. Oh, we do Gemba. Oh, just in time. We do just in time delivery. Oh, but all these things are just the lean tools. Lean tools don't work if you don't have the right mentality or philosophy. So what I mean by lean philosophy is a project that empowers its team members to challenge the processes that they are using so that the processes can always be improved. So what did we do better last time? What can we do better than yesterday? Okay. So I was building a 2-kilometer viaduct, and they said it was statistically impossible to achieve the dates. That's some of the tools that we used. So we say every day, what can we do better than we did yesterday? Of course, we did deliver the project, and it included certain aspects as well. Not just lean, but lean philosophy, that mentality, the ability to say we want to do better. We want to do better. We are going to empower our team. We trust our team. We'll let them change the process for us. And number 10, project leadership. For me, project leadership is everything. Leadership is everything and is everything. Okay. If you run the project doesn't go well, you're the first person that will be shot. And everybody knows that here. I mean, the chairmen and CEOs of projects on the UK now have been removed because the projects went over budget and it went out of time. They've been removed. Project leadership is everything. And so I would say some of the rules of a project leader is basically, first of all, you create and inspire the team to achieve a vision. So you come up with a vision and inspire the team. That's your job, to achieve a vision. Number 2, clearly define roles and responsibilities. You're the project leader. Now, this is not job description. So let's get it right. A lot of people, when I say this, they think it's job description. It's not. When I go into projects and the project is struggling and you ask people, why is the project struggling? The answer most of the time you get is, someone will say, you know what, Clement, I don't even know what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm doing. He's doing the same thing as I'm doing. He's doing the same thing that I'm doing. So I don't really know. And when people don't have a clearly defined roles and responsibilities, what they try to do then is they start backstabbing each other. Okay? So they start backstabbing each other. They don't, and the projects like to go pear-shaped. Okay? So what I do normally is I look at my direct reports. I'll say, okay, this senior commercial manager who reports directly to me, what exact meetings does he need to go to? What meetings does he need to go to? What reports do I need? What do I need him specifically to do to achieve our success? You remember we talked about our success criteria, our goals. Our goals should be the driving force in everything. Our goals, not just doing processes, our goals. And so those goals then defines what role and responsibilities each member of my direct reports are doing. And then I say to my direct reports, you need to do the same thing for your direct reports. So I normally will create a spreadsheet that shows everybody's name, contact details, what specifically they're supposed to do. And I circulate to my direct reports. That's defining clear roles and responsibilities. As a project leader, you can't do it all. Trust me, you can't do it all. So your job is to create other leaders. You get on the job and you create other leaders. You bring other leaders up. You create change agents. Okay? Because I always say, when a project is going very, very well, that is when to change. You understand? When a project is going very, very well, you change. Because you change so you can go faster and so you can bank in more time. That's what I do. When it's going well, I create an artificial, emergency, so that we can go faster, motivate people better, so we can go faster. When things are not going very well, you've got to stick to the things that you know. You understand? So you have to create change agents as well in your team. Then what else? You have to drive the desired behaviors and attitudes and mindset. Mindset is everything. Mindset is everything. I was talking about a project that they said it could not be delivered. Okay, they didn't believe that the project could be delivered. That was the whole point. Okay, I went about the project team, including the carpenters, the reinforcement steel fixers, everybody on the ground, trying to change their mentality and their attitude towards the project. Okay, we brought TV crews to site. Whenever TV crews came to site, I took them down to the site to motivate our team members. It got to a point. The same people, including a supplier, who said, Clement, I think you are joking. We're never going to achieve this thing. Everybody said, we can achieve this. It's all about mindset, changing mindset as well. You understand? We can now achieve this. They believed it. It was so palpable that it was actually written in a magazine, a real magazine, about the attitude on site. We went to smash records and we received a lot of awards. Also, the fifth thing, you have to empower your team and help them develop new skills. You have to let people know that you care about them. You want to develop their skills. You want to help them to be successful. When they know that, then of course, they will be internally motivated to be able to support your project. As a project leader, you're looking at one thing. The main thing is you're looking at building a high performance team. You see, I always say to people, what you're doing when you enter a project as a project leader is to work your way out of a job. So you get your team, you're trying to get your team so good, so well, so inspired, so motivated that they no longer need you, that they have to sack you. Should be your goal. That may never happen, but remember, a lot of people are scared. You're afraid. You know what? If my team if they know everything that I know, and if they're doing so well, I may not be needed. Trust me. If you are that good, other big complex projects will be looking for you. So you will not be out of a job. Okay? So that should be your focus, really. So if you look at this diagram that I have on the screen, build a high performance team. Okay? The first thing we talked about it. Clearly understood goals. What are our goals? You know, why do we exist as a team? We are here to create some benefits. What have we defined as success? What are our success criteria? Clearly defined. And also remember that what you see as a goal for the overall project, if you look at one person in the project, let's say your site manager or your commercial manager, that goal is a dream to that person. So you need to break that goal down so that he can understand what goal he needs to achieve that fits into the overall goal. Okay? Number two, we talked about it. Clearly defined good roles is very important. If you want to build a high performance team, everybody needs to know what you're doing. You know, what am I doing? What am I accountable for? Critical. Step three, effective working processes. How should the team work? You know, how are we going to communicate? How are we going to reach decisions? You know, what process are we going to use? Lastly, how should we behave? You know, how should we behave with each other? You know, how should our relationship support the work that we want to do? How are we going to work gel together as a team and build the job? You know, this year for me is trying to build a high performance team. Everything I've talked about on this is basically geared towards one thing, trying to build a high performance team, trying to get a team going to the level where they don't need you anymore. Okay. Now I have this, what do you call it, video of a project that I want to show. So basically this video is about, which is a project which is about £2 million. Trying to get a video out so you guys can see it. So the project was basically £2 million, but it was one of the first bridge projects that we didn't just slide a deck. So there's a number of bridge projects which I've done. I had to slide the deck scene. We built one of the, what do you call it, the largest orthopedic deck. We did all of that. But this particular bridge, we had to put everything in, including the foundation. And basically, we demolished an existing bridge, put a new bridge in, including the rail tracks and everything else in 100 hours. And everything that I've talked about was used on that project. And that is why I think it's a good project to look at. Yeah, it's a very short video. And I'll show the video I'm just going to put up the video that you guys can see it. So just to summarize, when you're building a project, these are the things that I think about. What does success mean to us? Define success. What does success mean to all of us? Okay, I've said it so many times. Develop success factors. What are the success factors that is peculiar to this project? This particular project, what is going to make it successful? What do we need to look at? Okay, and then you implement these success factors. As you implement the success factors, you then monitor it. Are these things working? The things that we've actually put in saying they are going to make a success, are they working? If they're not working, do we need to change them? Do we need to tweak them? You know, that is my basics of project management. So whenever people talk about there's a new tool out there, egal, this, that's not what project management is about. Project management is about actually delivering using everything that you can actually gather to deliver. Now, I want you to watch that video. So if you guys can bear with me, I'll show you the video. And it's basically is a Reading West Curve bridge replacement. It's on YouTube as well. But because I was involved in the bridge, I led the whole thing. So I have the video here. And I'll just play the video